My parents gave family heirlooms to my sister because she was getting married, but now they're asking me to buy them back for $30,000 because she sold them. About 6 months ago, my parents and I had a huge argument. The fight was about something very personal and meaningful to me: our family heritage. At that time, my sister was getting ready to get married. I've always been open about the fact that I have no plans to get married or have children. I've just never seen that life path for myself, and my family knows it. It's not new to them. But somehow, instead of respecting my decision, my parents decided to punish me for it by doing something awful. Just the day after my sister got engaged, my parents invited both of us to their house for dinner. We were all sitting around the table chatting and eating, when suddenly, in the middle of dinner, my parents announced that they wanted my sister to have the entire family inheritance as a wedding gift. These were heirlooms. They told her she would receive every single piece. Just so you know, this collection wasn't just some old stuff lying around. They were incredibly expensive pieces with a lot of sentimental value. The items had been passed down from generation to generation, and when I was growing up, my mom even mentioned that the inheritance would be split between my sister and me. That's why it hurt so much when they suddenly changed their minds, without even talking to me. What made it worse was that this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. You see, all my life I felt like my sister was always their favorite. She's the youngest, and has somehow always gotten everything from them. More attention, more support, and now even the inheritance that was supposed to be shared between us. The difference in how we were raised started the moment she was born. I still remember how my dad threw a big family party to celebrate her arrival. My parents were visibly relieved because, unlike me, my sister was born without any issues. I was born with hearing loss, and since I was little, I've needed a hearing aid to hear better. Instead of accepting this as part of who I am, my parents have treated it like something to be ashamed of. They always told everyone how much they wished I didn't have that disability. I always felt like they were ashamed of me, as if I wasn't the daughter they expected. So when my sister was born without any disabilities, they automatically loved her more and preferred her. Over the years, they've made several comments to put me down and remind me that I'm not as perfect as my sister. I've been told things like, "No normal man would want to marry a deaf girl like you," or that I shouldn't have such high standards for men because of my hearing impairment, and that I should settle for anyone who wants me, as if my disability makes it impossible for a man to truly love me. Because of their attitude towards me, I worked really hard to get away from my hometown and pay for college myself. After finishing college, I decided I wouldn't move back home. I wanted independence, space, and freedom. And because I decided not to follow the traditional path they expected of me, to get married, settle down, be the kind of woman they thought I should be, they resented me even more. I didn't care. It's not like doing what they want would make them love me. My sister, on the other hand, stayed close to them, always by their side, following the life they had planned for her. And they've always liked that about her. My parents have always been very clear about what they expect from me. Time and again I've been told that I need to find a man as soon as possible and give them grandchildren, as if those things are the only way to live a full and meaningful life. According to them, if I don't do these things, I'll somehow be living an incomplete life, one I'll regret when I'm older and alone. At the same time, they tell me my disability will prevent it. Who can figure them out? My mom has even told me straight to my face that as a woman, my purpose in this life is to bring new life into the world. She told me that by choosing not to have children, I wasn't only disappointing her, but I was also doing a disservice to God himself. As you can imagine, it's not just pressure. It's emotional blackmail loaded with guilt and manipulation. But despite all that, I always stood my ground and refused to get married just for the sake of getting married. I built my life my way, not theirs. So when my sister got engaged, my parents clearly saw this as a chance to put me in my place. That's why they gave my sister our entire family inheritance. My sister was practically glowing with excitement when my mom made the announcement. She was full of smiles and thank yous, clearly thrilled by all of it. But what hurt me the most was that she didn't even pause to ask why I wasn't getting anything. She didn't consider me. She didn't care to understand what that decision meant to me or how hurt I was. When I tried to confront my parents about how unfair the situation was, my dad just came down on me. He said he and my mom believed my sister was the right person to carry on the family legacy because she would have daughters to pass it on to. I couldn't keep quiet, so I protested. I reminded them of something important. My grandmother had always said that both my sister and I should inherit the family heirlooms. That was the promise she made us, and it had always been the plan. But my mom, with that same firm tone she always uses, insisted that she knew best. She said that of the two of us, she felt my sister was more deserving, and she didn't care how I felt about it. My dad said I was being greedy for even asking for my share. He fully supported my mother's decision, making it clear that it was already decided and there was no room for discussion. Being the least favorite child is one thing, but being constantly reminded of it is something else entirely. So I decided to cut back on contact with my parents and sister. I stopped reaching out to them and let them contact me less and less. Even when my sister invited me to her wedding, I politely said no. I thought it would be best for my peace of mind to stay away. But my sister wasn't happy with my decision, so she tried to make things worse. Since I had blocked her on my phone and social media, she started sending me a bunch of emails. She didn't even try to understand why I wouldn't go. She was just upset that I wouldn't be there in front of her husband's family. And then, to top it all off, she had the nerve to tell me that even if I wasn't going, I should at least have the decency to send her a wedding gift. She asked me to buy her an air fryer and an electric vacuum cleaner, saying that would make up for my lack of respect for not attending. I told my sister that I had already received my wedding gift, part of my inheritance, and that I wasn't going to buy her anything. I reminded her that I had already given her something valuable, something we were supposed to share, and that should be enough. She was clearly annoyed by my email and ended up sending me more emails, but I just ignored them. I didn't reply, and I didn't send her anything as a gift. Anyway, it's been 6 months since I cut off almost all contact with my family, and I've stuck to my decision. Keeping my distance from my parents and sister and focusing on my own life has given me some peace and extra time. But then, out of the blue yesterday, my parents showed up at my door. This was incredibly rare. They had never come to visit me, not even once since I decided to cut off contact. It's not like I used to get many visits from them before that anyway. They stood there looking completely dejected. When I asked them what they were doing here, my mom told me it was a family emergency, and so she and my dad decided to just stop by. As soon as they sat down, I asked them to get straight to the point so we wouldn't waste any more time. I wasn't in the mood to hear about some trivial thing that had happened to them last Wednesday morning. I was just curious why they were at my house after all this time. My mom started telling me that they had missed me a lot over the past few months, and that they felt really bad about how they treated me the last time we saw each other. I told her that was the kind of nonsense I didn't want to hear, and to get to the point. Besides, this didn't sound like her. My mom said that giving my sister our entire family inheritance had been a mistake, and that all these months had helped her realize this. She went on, almost apologetically, saying that they now understood how unfair their behavior had been and how painful it must have been for me. If you were suspicious that my parents came to me saying these things, I was even more suspicious, knowing them. My parents weren't like that, and there was no reason in the world for them to act that way with me. These weren't my parents. My parents had never been ones to apologize, much less to me, and certainly not to admit they were wrong. It didn't feel real. It felt like my parents had been replaced by aliens. It didn't make sense, and I knew they were either lying to me or preparing me for what they were really there to say. So, I asked them, straight up, cut the crap and tell me what you're really here for. I had no doubt there was more to the story than they were letting on, and I wasn't wrong. I wasn't going to fall for a fake reconciliation when there was clearly something deeper they weren't telling me. My parents looked at each other, a clear sign of you tell her or I'll tell her. My dad was the one who did it, but he said it in an even more roundabout way. He said they had realized that I was, in fact, more deserving than my sister, and that after everything I had been through, they now wanted me to carry on the family legacy instead of my sister. But, of course, there was a catch. Before I could receive anything, I had to do a little thing to get these heirlooms. I made a frustrated face and asked them what this thing was I had to do. What they said next almost made me burst out laughing. I was told that in order to receive the family heirlooms, I would have to buy them back because my sister had sold them without their consent, and they had found them for sale online. My sister had sold our family inheritance. I asked them what the hell they were talking about. My mother explained that my sister had gone behind their backs and, without telling them, sold the entire collection of family belongings. She then used the thousands of dollars she made selling the items to start her own business. For them, that went against what a family member should do with something so important. Apparently, her business venture failed miserably. Now she and her husband were in debt. She ran to our parents, asking for financial help, and that's when my parents finally got her to admit what she had done with the family heirlooms. At that point, my mom broke down and started begging me to save the heirlooms. She kept saying how much she regretted not having listened to Grandma and not having divided the items between my sister and me from the beginning, as she had always promised. But since she didn't, everything was now ruined, and the family belongings were gone. I asked her how I could save the family inheritance when it had already been sold, to which my dad pointed out that I could still recover the entire collection. I just had to pay $30,000 for it. He then explained that they had discovered they were being resold on a website and needed my help to buy them back. I stared at them in shock. For me, $30,000 was a ridiculous amount because it's not money I just have lying around. How was I supposed to come up with $30,000 out of thin air to buy back family belongings? Even if I had that kind of money, there was no way I would pay that amount for something that was supposed to be mine from the beginning. I didn't even know it could be worth that much. I looked at my parents and told them what was going to happen next. Since this was all their fault, they were the ones who gave the family heirlooms to my sister in the first place when they knew perfectly well they should have been divided between her and me. They would have to take care of it. It wasn't my responsibility to solve my sister's problems, much less theirs. My mom said I could easily help them if I wanted to, since I was a single woman with no children, and she knew I had a lot of money. She complained that I was just making excuses. I told her I didn't have that money, not readily available anyway. Besides, if $30,000 seemed like too little to them, well, they could come up with it themselves and get the items back. Then, when they did, they could hand them over to me and prove that this was nothing more than manipulation. My dad said he understood that such a sum of money was difficult to come by, but that it was impossible for them to get it without going into more debt, and that it would be easier for me because I surely had savings. He went on to say that the family items were also my legacy and shouldn't be in the hands of a stranger. I offered them another solution because I truly believed those items shouldn't be in the hands of strangers, but they didn't like this proposal either. If they really wanted their family belongings back, they should be asking my sister to buy them back, not me. Besides, if this was really that important to them, giving it to the most irresponsible person I know was the worst idea. The decision they made back then led directly to this disaster. I mean, my sister has never held a job or earned a penny, and they just gave her thousands of dollars worth of stuff expecting her to take care of them? Of course, she sold them. How is it my responsibility to save the family legacy when they didn't even trust me enough to give it to me from the beginning? I asked them if they had any idea how much she sold them for, and they said $4,000. So I was supposed to pay practically double to get them back. My mom replied that they had actually tried to pressure my sister into buying them, but she and her husband were completely broke since their business failed and he quit his job to handle it. They apparently had no money, were in debt, and actually depended on my parents for financial support. My father argued that my sister was clearly in no position to help buy back the family belongings, while neither were they, because part of their savings had gone toward my sister's wedding. Well, I wasn't the savior they thought they were going to find. My mother called me useless while crying, because I wasn't being helpful to the family, with my father telling her not to talk to me like that, but then asking me to please reconsider. They were playing good cop, bad cop, while I was playing get the circus clowns out of my house. I finally managed to get them to leave, but as I held the door open so I wouldn't accidentally hit them on the way out, my mom sobbed and begged, and my dad kept trying to pressure me. I finally sat down to think this through in peace, without my parents whispering in my ear. I feel bad for Grandma's heirlooms, but there's no way in the world I can spend $30,000 on them. I feel bad. 30,000 times bad. Update 1. Many people are curious about how our family inheritance could be worth $30,000. This is because it's not just one object, it's a whole collection of jewelry and some rare cultural items that have been passed down for generations. My grandmother always said it should stay in the family. In the past, my mother had them appraised, and although she didn't tell me the exact amount, she just said the value was high. I had guessed maybe $3,000 or $4,000, not $30,000. Now, could I technically buy back these family items if I wanted to? The answer is both yes and no. I'm not going to lie, I make a good living, but it's not like I have $30,000 stashed in a safe. That kind of money would wipe out my savings, my emergency funds, and honestly, ruin me financially. So yes, maybe technically I could do it if I absolutely had to, but it would be reckless and, in my opinion, ridiculous to even consider spending that kind of money on something that should have been mine from the start. Also, I've had zero contact with my sister since the wedding. After I declined the invitation, she bombarded me with emails demanding wedding gifts and trying to make me feel guilty. And even though these items are family heirlooms, important things, if I did this, I would be letting my sister get away with it completely. No. What she deserves now is to suffer the consequences, which is being broke. They should even be asking her to sell her car or anything else of value so they can buy them back. Many people have told me that I should have gone to a lawyer and taken legal action when my mom gave all the family belongings to my sister. I completely understand why they say that, but unfortunately, there's nothing legal I can do about it. You see, My grandmother left a will stating that those heirlooms would go to my mother. My mother would then be in charge of doing the same with us according to tradition. My grandmother had always told my mother that she wanted both my sister and me to inherit them equally. She could have put that in her will too, but the situation could have also happened with us and my sister's children. However, it was something we talked about openly when we were younger, and I just assumed my mom would honor that wish and be fair to her two daughters. But legally, since there's no official document, no written will, no trust, it was entirely my mother's decision how she chose to handle the family inheritance. So when she decided to give everything to my sister, I had no legal standing to challenge her. It was completely her call, and I learned to deal with it. So, no, I couldn't go to court or consult with a lawyer about this specific issue. Well, I could, but they'd probably just charge me for telling me what I already know. Anyway, thanks again to everyone who has tried to look out for me. It really means a lot. Update 2. As if my parents suddenly showing up at my house wasn't enough of a headache, guess who decided to make a surprise appearance this week? Yes, my sister. This time, however, I had learned my lesson. And after seeing how completely arrogant and manipulative my parents were during their visit, I wasn't going to go through that again. So when my sister knocked on my door, I flat out refused to let her in. She started screaming from the other side of the door about how they were treating her like garbage for having made just one mistake. Well, being treated like garbage now for what she did doesn't seem like a bad outcome to me. Then she started trying to convince me that I could fix everything if I just took out the money and bought back the family belongings. I told her the same thing I told our parents. This is not my problem. She went on about how unfair it was that everyone was turning against her now and how no one ever helped her. Coming from her who always received everything on a silver platter, it was pretty funny. She finally left when she realized I wasn't interested in listening to her. Update 3. My parents have decided to take out a second mortgage on their house, though with some help from me. They are practically getting themselves voluntarily into debt just to try and buy back the family belongings my sister sold. I think I have a lot of explaining to do before you understand what's going on, but it looks like the family heirlooms are heading back to where they should be. I'm going to tell you about that too. After hearing from them for a week about how I should help them, how this is part of the family and I am too, and lots more blah blah blah, I decided to help them. Or at least, that's what they think. I suggested a deal to them. I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. I told them that going and buying back the family inheritance myself was unfair to me because I would be the only one taking any risk here. I don't know, maybe they'd try to sue me to get them back or whatever. They couldn't, just as I couldn't do anything legally when they decided to give them to my sister. But I don't think they knew that. I suggested that they take out a second mortgage on their house, buy the items back, and after signing something stating that they would donate them to me, then I would pay off their mortgage. It's important that it was a donation because I don't want the contract to say that I have to give them the money, only that they would give the items to me. My parents pushed back, but I told them that if they were truly sorry and wanted to make things right with me, I needed that gesture of good faith. Still, they said the bank wouldn't give them that much money. I told them they could go to my sister's house, ask her to sell something valuable, like her car, her TV, or whatever they could get, and then borrow the rest from the bank. I did all this in person. I never responded to any messages when they talked about these things. I left no paper trail. My sister wrote to me to ask if I would pay her back too, and I said the same. I promised it only when we saw each other face to face, and conveniently with the music loud because I was cleaning, and I always listen to music when I clean, so no recordings. Now my parents are waiting for the bank's approval, and my sister got the rest of the money together. I think my parents contributed almost $1,000 or a little more, and my sister the rest after selling her old car, an 85-inch television they received as a wedding gift, and even the stupid gifts she had demanded from me. I don't know who gave her those, but I don't care. Everyone is waiting for me to pay for all this. I'm waiting for them to sign the donation paperwork so I can keep my money and the heirlooms. Update 4. Not all plans always go well, but I'm not sad about what happened either. To sum it up, I haven't gotten the heirlooms back, but neither have my parents. The place where they were sold was a scam, and my parents fell for it. No one knows where the heirlooms are now, and I think it will be impossible to buy them back. But I haven't remortgaged my house because of it, nor have I sold my belongings. I didn't even have to tell my parents that I didn't sign anything when they came to demand that I pay my share. I simply told them that without the heirlooms there is no money, and that was that. They're now filing a police report, but all they've discovered is that the trace leads to a server in Vietnam. That's the only clue. It would have been perfect if my parents had actually bought them and given them to me expecting their money back. But it could also have gone horribly wrong if they had bought them. They really could have kept them, or they would just chase me for months to get me to pay. That would have been worse. I guess it's not such bad karma that my parents ended up in debt, and my sister is even deeper in debt. I highly doubt they'll find the people who scammed them. My parents even want to involve the CIA and other agencies to catch them. I don't think anyone would spend millions of dollars chasing scammers in another country. I doubt at this point I'll be back with an update on the police catching the culprits. Addition. A year has passed, and the police have closed the fraud case. My parents are paying off the second mortgage, and my sister is living with her in-laws, with whom she doesn't get along well.